Tri-City Sports Now. So a tidbit that Dino Tomlin, he is the son of Mike Tomlin, the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he just committed to play at Maryland. And it is the first time Maryland has landed a recruit since September. You know, what happened with DJ Durkin. We've been talking with Caleb Calhoun about this for some time. And the thing was, there was a rumor that Butch Jones, a former Tennessee coach, had expressed interest in the Maryland job now that it had been open. Some speculation Scott Satterfield, Appalachian State coach, might be in the mix. The interim coach right there is Matt Canada. And Matt Canada used to be the offensive coordinator at Pitt. The much-maligned Nathan Peterman actually threw for 5 touchdown passes under the guidance of Canada and defeated eventual national champion Clemson in Clemson 2 years ago. All right, so the guy knows he can coach. He's 5-4 with the Terrapins. It's going to be their first winning season in a while if things stay the way they are right now. Now, I mention all of this because that would, if Dino Tomlin is going to go to Maryland, and by the way, if you're wondering why didn't what I tell you here, he shared facilities at Pitt, why didn't he just go to Pitt and all that? Well, his uncle had also, Ed Tomlin, had played at Maryland. That was something. But does that not imply that perhaps Matt Canada would keep that Maryland coaching job if, and Mike Tomlin knows what kind of a coach he is, if his son is committed to Maryland? That's my point, because obviously they share the same facility. And just so if you're a little wondering about, an Appalachian State fan, a little bit, am I going to lose the coach? If you were a Tennessee fan saying, Butch Jones will never coach again, what about Maryland? I think that indicates there's a strong chance that Matt Canada will stay, and so none of those other two things will happen. He has been patiently waiting for me to get through that. He's Alex Daugherty on the no longer on theforecheck.com. He's actually at a better place. It's A to Z Sports Nashville, where, my goodness, he's got a podcast and a YouTube show and all the articles on the Nashville Predators that you could ask for. They're going to be playing Colorado on national TV tonight. The face-off is at 10 o'clock. And I guess to begin with, Nashville, I mean, it's been an extraordinary season for them so far. Won the President's Trophy last year. They're on pace to do it again. But what I was really excited about, Pekka Rinne was signed for 2 more years. I think that says a Stanley Cup is coming to Tennessee. Alex Daugherty, am I being a homer, or do you believe the same thing?
I think that's definitely more likely now. I mean, I wrote about this on our site that I think that signing him for 2 more years beyond this year says that David Boyle is very confident that the championship window for this team is just as wide open as it was, last year and the year before. I think that no team in the NHL can claim the same goaltending depth that the Predators have right now. A President Trophy winning goalie, and then a very, very good top 15, top 10 maybe backup in Cesaro, who has been excellent in relief of Rinne when he had to sit out 3 games with a very minor injury. Now, obviously, you have a aging goalie. He's going to be 38 by the time that contract is over. You never know. The drop-off can be pretty steep for goalies, but there's plenty of goalies that have played into their 40s and done okay. And I think that they got it for a good cap number. So, yeah, I think it was a great contract, great extension. And Pekka Rinne and Cesaro are going to be the best goalie duo for the next 2 years after this one.
Martin Brodeur, I mean, there's an example of a guy that played forever, I mean, so goalie, it's like the new quarterback, if you will. I mean, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, getting it done in their 40s, making someone like me feel young. It's the same thing with goalies. Yeah.
I was going to add on, you're a big fan of the history of the game. I was just research earlier in the season. Rinne has been off to an incredible start, and I don't think he'll do it, but let's say he puts in another President's
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the staying in shape, the the diet and all that. The idea, the goalie with a gut, you don't see that too much anymore. I mean, it's not. It used to be kind of a, oh, you've got a gut, go play goalie and all that. That's not the case with it anymore. By the way, he is coming back after an injury and all this. Any indication on if he's slowing down, or just what the injury impact will have on Rinne's game in the short term?
No, he started 2 games since he came back from injury. He had a shutout and then he had 2 wins in those 2 games.
Answers that
question. A lot of
question.
shots in that process. But no, he looked absolutely fine. He looked very comfortable. I think it was really, really precautionary if anything. When he came out of the game, he even seemed kind of hesitant to come out of the game anyways against, I believe it was Calgary. But, he certainly has not slowed down since he came back from the injury.
I love the Preds' victory against Las Vegas. It doesn't wipe away the loss to Winnipeg last season. However, it does give a little bit, things are a little bit different. Maybe you wouldn't have been in the Stanley Cup Finals your first year at Vegas. You get that little feeling in it. How big was that 4-1 victory last week for the Preds over the defending Western Conference champs?
I think it was big. I'm really kind of, all last year I was kind of not that high on Vegas, and they kept proving me wrong. I really think that they're coming down.
Who was? They've only got 13 points. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a big reason for that win. I think Vegas really is kind of realizing maybe what they are. They had a serious injury. Eric Hall going out. They've had injuries all over in various other places. They lost James Neal. I'm honestly more high on the win in Tampa when they went down to Tampa, beat a perennial cup contending team 4-1 in their own place. And then tonight will be a big test going against Colorado, the team that really gave them fits last year in the playoffs. As that series went 6 games, most people expected a sweep. And I think that'll be a big test. So tonight will be a big one of the biggest tests of the season, I think, in addition to that road win at Tampa.
I want to say I read my standings wrong. I read, forgive me, the Preds have 22 points. I think I said 27, and we're on pace to repeat as the President's Trophy winner. Tampa Bay, which you mentioned right there, actually has 1 more point. They played 1 more game, and they lost in overtime, and all this. So they actually have 23. Forgive me, I misread the standings here, so my apologies. But, yeah, Colorado comes in with 17 points. So, it's 5 points ahead as they go on the road to play the Lance and all this tonight on a game that will be seen on the NBCSN network, if memory serves, at 10 p.m., right after, Crosby and Ovechkin in D.C., Pens and Caps. So it's a hockey night in the USA today. I wanted to also say, you've written a story on Ryan Johansson, and you really think he's elevated his game, lots of assists and all that. What are you seeing out of Ryan Johansson this year?
Well, he's got 13 assists, which is almost an assist per game pace. When they traded for him in 2016, I think that is exactly what they wanted. They wanted a guy to be a playmaking center. A lot of people have asked for Ryan Johansson, why is he not shooting more? He needs to shoot more. He's got a great shot. And that's true. But when you have a guy in the center of the ice who's creating spaces for other shooters like Philip Forsberg, who is a center shooter, that's what you need. You need a guy that has the vision, that can hold the puck in the corners, that can fight off defenders in the corner, and make just incredible passes. He made one of the best passes that I think that the Predators franchise has ever seen in Tampa when he found Roman Josi on the back door on a cross-ice backhand pass right on his face. I mean, he's doing things that no other player in Predators franchise has done except for maybe Paul Kariya back in 2005, 2006. He looks like, he's an elite playmaker right now, and it's been really fun to watch. Now, he's got to be consistent. That's been his one thing since coming over, is just consistent play and not disappearing from games. But, he's been really just another level this year so far.
Talking to Alex Daugherty, who also has some very interesting stats on his article on Johansson. And by the way, if you look for it on A to Z Nashville, it's Weekly Edge, Ryan Johansson turning into an elite playmaker. But you got some great stuff. The career number of shutouts for Pekka Rinne, his save percentage this year, which is outstanding at 948. I'll show that tidbit. But also the great picture that you have of Chara and Grimaldi, 6'9" defenseman for the Bruins, and Rocco Grimaldi of the Preds at 5'6", standing next to each other and such. It reminds me when I saw Saturday Night Live, and it was Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, had Angus Young, the guitarist for AC/DC, on his shoulders. I mean, he doesn't have him on his shoulders, but it's sort of reminiscent of that sort of size differential and all that. So you want to check that story out on A2ZSportsNashville.com, which, like I said, I remember here in On the Forecheck, but I am really liking the coverage that you're giving the Predators right now. I do want to throw you a bit of a curveball. I want to throw you off of the Predators for a bit. I know some people were really kind of surprised that Jack Quenneville, after 15 years, got the axe from the Chicago Blackhawks, all those Stanley Cups he won there. Now, hockey coaches generally don't stay around 15 years. That's, like 25 in another sport or so, minimum, I would suggest to you. But I know that the Blackhawks, they're a veteran team. They've been struggling this year. Do you think they made the coaching change to try to light a fire on a veteran team with a lot of long-range contracts? Or do you think that this is, the beginning of a rebuilding project now? No, Duncan Keith is already going to wind his way up on another team.
Yeah, I think that they definitely have started the rebuild. And it kind of surprised me that the comments afterwards, Jonathan Cage, the captain of that team and three-time cup player, really had some pretty harsh things to say about on his way out the door, sort of kind of saying, now we're ready to get things going in the right direction, or something to that effect. Kind of surprised by that. To be honest, I think Joel Flintlow he's a guy, he won't stay long on the unemployment line. He will be hired. I would not be shocked if he doesn't get hired by, say, the St. Louis Blues, if they get rid of Mike Yeo. Yeah, I was pretty surprised by that, but just to add to that, and to give a little Predators, to swing this back to the Predators, for the longest time, the Predators had the longest tenured head coach. They had Barry Trotz on the team forever. Since then, they since had Peter Laviolette since the 2014 season. He's now the third longest tenured head coach. So even though the Predators just got rid of the longest tenured head coach just a few years ago, they already have the third longest tenured head coach in Peter Laviolette. Goes to show that the Nashville market and the Nashville organization is much more willing to stick it out and wait and hold on to coaches to see how they develop. Unlike Chicago or Los Angeles, who win cups and then boot their coaches to the curb when they don't win another one. So,
what about Washington with what they did with Trotz? I mean, thanks for the cup. Go to New York. It's and now I did wonder. I mean, was there any feeling that maybe the Predators, after Trotz won the Stanley Cup in Washington, that maybe they shouldn't have kicked him to the curb? Was there any feeling of that in Nashville?
After Trotz got kicked to the curb in Washington?
Well, after he won the Stanley Cup there.
I mean, honestly, I'm not really sure what happened there, because the writing was on the wall before the season, before the regular season ended, that he wasn't going to be returned, and his contract was just out for that season. That was very surprising, but I think it kind of makes sense, because he was able to get that cup and then and not have to go through a contract negotiation, and he wanted to go someplace where he could build a new team in New York. So it was a little surprising, and I'm sure there's some things that went on behind the scenes that maybe we don't know about. But I think both parties probably are happy with the way it ended.
What I was curious, when you say both parties, not necessarily Washington and the New York Islanders, but I was looking at. I mean, was there any feeling from the catfish-throwing Predators fans that after Barry Trotz, even if he was a lame duck coach, hey, he won the Stanley Cup, and our President's Trophy-winning team did not. I mean, did we get rid of Barry? Should we have gotten rid of Barry Trotz? Was there any feeling of that?
I didn't get that. I
Okay.
People were just happy for Barry Trotz to go ahead and win one. I think people are really high on Laviolette, especially because of the type of game that he brings. I think people are smart enough to know that Trotz was a great thing to happen for Washington, but that team won a Stanley Cup because they had high offensive superstars and a great defensive goaltending clicking at the right time. And no, I think people are pretty happy with Laviolette at the moment. There are some things that need fixing. I think that they've had a special teams problem for a couple of years now, and they need to fix that. But I don't think there's too much to be down about Laviolette at this point.
Okay, I did want to ask, I mean, in a contract signing that doesn't approach Rinne in any shape or form, but there's a blue liner, Matt Donovan. He's a journeyman minor leaguer. You know, he gets a 2-year contract in the NHL. Will play on the, third defensive unit, I'm sure, that sort of thing. But something that struck me, they're going to give him $650 a year, I think. That's good. But he was making $152,000 a year in the American Hockey League. I don't know, Alex Daugherty, if you're familiar, but there's been a lot of controversy about how poorly paid minor league baseball players are. For instance, here in Johnson City, it's about $1,000 a month for a Johnson City Cardinal. That's what they make. That sort of thing. And I was curious, do you have any idea or any perceptions on why, say, the quasi-AAA franchise or AAA teams in the American Hockey League can pay their players so well, whereas in baseball, not so much? Is it because baseball is cheap? Do you have any insight why that might be, Alex Daugherty?
Well, I think one thing would be they're paying less players. I mean,
that's one thing, yeah.
23 guys on a roster as opposed to however many for a minor league baseball team. I'm guessing it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 or 40. I'm just guessing.
There are 35 guys on an Appalachian League team, and they've got 5 teams or 4 teams ahead of them, too. So their rosters may not be quite as much, but yes.
That could be part of it, but I'll also tell you this. AHL is an immensely popular league. I mean, it's not popular in the South, obviously, or in this part of the country, but if you go to the Midwest, if you go to the Northeast, if you go to and these minor league hockey teams draw a lot of people. I mean, the Lake Erie Monsters, the Milwaukee Admirals, of course, the Toronto Marlies. These teams draw a huge crowd and have nice payrolls, and they have really good partnerships with the NHL affiliates that obviously take care of a lot of the payrolls too. So it's a really good partnership. It's a great league. I think that's part of it. It's a really well constructed league. The Calder Cup playoffs are honestly very watchable. I mean, if you can stream this stuff online, it's a good product. So I think that probably has benefits it as well.
And you've mentioned just a little, although there are some Utica, New Yorks and such like that, you've mentioned, I think, a little bit on why maybe the bigger markets. And there is a feeling, I mean, obviously it's the AAA league of the NHL, but there is kind of a feeling that's a little bit more. It stands a little bit more on its own as a AAA league, the American Hockey League, than, let's say, I don't know, the Pacific Coast League in minor league baseball. I do get that sense. And even, you look at a team like, let's say, the Hershey Bears, who've been there for a million years. The Hershey Bears, by the way, that's a derivative of Hershey Bars. Think about that for a second. Okay? That's where they get their name. I wrote a book on Pennsylvania sports. I learned that. Anyway, but no, the Hershey Bears, long-time team. But that's Harrisburg. Harrisburg is a top 40 market. People don't understand that, or maybe it's top 45. But I mean, that's the only big league team they have there is the Hershey Bears, if you will, outside of a AA minor league team. But there's no big college there. There's no big pro team and all that. So you've got that. You've got the Hartford Wolfpack. They used to have the Whalers. You're going to steal sea hockey. I mean, this is what you got. So I do understand that to a certain extent, but I still think that the minor league baseball players, outside of their bonuses, are significantly underpaid. Okay, I know you like Roman Josie's defensive work. It's improved, you think. But what are you working on here on A2ZSportsNashville.com that we can read after today's game against the Lanch?
Well, I actually just published an article today on the power play. I think that there's major problems with the Nashville Predators power play. That's gone 6 for 51, which has been a
on that on A to Z Sports Nashville. I love this PK Subban shot chart. Last 301 shots. I'm looking at this right now. I mean, this is coverage. This is modern day exhaustive coverage. And yeah, I mean, see what you said. When you take a look at that graph that you've posted up there, you're going to get a little bit of a sense on maybe why the power play is only 6 for 51 this year. Alex Daugherty, A to Z SportsNashville.com. He's the guy to read when you want to follow the Nashville Predators. I'm the guy to listen to when you want to listen and hear how ETSU is doing. They played a basketball game last night, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. And if I've got time, I'll also tell you how, it was Election Day yesterday, what athletes were elected to office. Some that you'll know. Tri-City Sports Now.